Thomas Seals here with tonight's final thought. So what would you do if you found out that civilization only had 24 hours left? That in 24 hours time, that life on Earth would be done? That was a question that was posed recently on one of the podcasts I listen to frequently, the Morning Stream by Scott Johnson and Brian Ibbott. And it was an interesting. I think it was a listener question that was posed to them. And one of the interesting things was not only was that question asked, but Scott Johnson immediately kind of attached to answering the question the idea of, well, not only is there only 24 hours left, and it's not just 24 hours left in your life, but in everything, the Earth, but also that, and you knew that there were no repercussions for your actions. What would you do? The sad thing to me it was that in this podcast, Johnson's off-the-cuff thought process kind of went immediately to, would you go out and rape and pillage? Would you go out and, just shoot things up? Because, of course, in 24 hours, who's going to care? And then, obviously, there's no repercussions for your actions. So I was distressed that his thought first went in that direction instead of what I would have. I mean, it was like almost a video game scenario coming to life. No consequences for your behavior. What would you do? And so it distressed me just a little bit that he went in that direction first. Because for me, it is one of those sorts of things. When you're young and you have no experience of life, then the fear of getting caught or the fear of getting in trouble, is a pretty good motivator. But one hopes as you get older and mature and grow up that you develop an idea of yourself and about what life is. That it isn't about that you do it. You're motivated to move in the direction of things that you love and things that are important to you, and not in terms of my motivation is not getting caught. I guess there's varying levels of that mindset, or the lack of those ethics, and it is one of those. And I guess this kind of also approaches the idea that for the most part, we humans, especially those of us in the West, don't think about the end of our existence that much. We push it out of our minds, and those who overly dwell on it are usually considered to be, not normal. Something's wrong with them. That they're fixated on their death, that sort of thing. But it is, it is one of those sorts of realities. I know in Steve Jobs' Stanford speech, he talks about death as being the greatest creation of life because it really sets things, straight. It's a very black and white kind of a thing, and how you approach it, how you deal with it, speaks to one's values. And so that's why I thought that the question was an interesting question. The funny response, of course, was by Brian Ibbott when he thought about it for a second. He goes, well, 24 hours, huh? Well, there's a lot of movies on Netflix that I've been really meaning to see, so I guess I better get at it. And so it is, it is one of those sorts of things that we have, I guess as you grow older, you have to face and choose those, and hopefully you are, you get to that place where your values are about, are constructive and are centered in a more higher plane than avoiding getting caught, or in some cases the ridiculous idea and notion of avoiding death. It's just one of those sorts of things. My illness from a few over the past year never really got to be on that level, but there was an aspect to it where my independence was taken from me and my mobility was taken from me, and I really had to reassess and reevaluate my, what life really meant to me, what was important. And as I've gotten returned to some normalcy, I want to retain that clarity that comes to one when faced with great loss, or the potential for great loss. And so that question, what would you do if there were only 24 hours left, should be something you don't want to, you don't want to morbidly dwell on, but you want to have that clarity when it comes to considering the nature of our lives. What is it that, what is our legacy going to be? How do we want to be remembered? What do we want to leave behind? What is meaningful to us? And no one else can answer that question except for, you for yourself and me for myself. And whether you believe in an afterlife or you don't believe in an afterlife, you still have to contend with what is the meaning, and hopefully not let the day-to-day, the fear is that you let the day-to-day just dictate how you live your life to the point where, should you grow old and that sort of thing, then it's all unmet potential, or it's all this regret or all these sorts of things because you never considered what you were about because you were just so busy doing. So a very interesting question, and that's my thought for tonight. Is what would you do if there were only 24 hours left? How would that change your what you do? You go on the violent side that Scott Johnson jokingly, kind of entertained. There's no repercussions, or would you go in the kind of funny side of Brian Ibbott's? Well, there's a lot of videos I've been meaning to catch up on. We need to do what's important, whether someone else believes it is valuable or not. So that's my thought for tonight. Catch you next time.